Right. Well, thank you. My name is Tracey Wilen-Daugenti, and it's an honor and a pleasure to be here. I run the Apollo Research Institute, and we focus our research on core issues in education. I'm also a visiting scholar at Stanford University, where I look at the impact of technology on society, work, and education, higher education in particular. So today what I'll do is give you just a little window into some of my work. I came out recently with a book called Society 3.0, which is a journey of where I look at the impact of technology on these areas. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just start off with a couple of facts and figures and trends, and then what I'll do is move into the technology. So I know I tend to move a lot. And then what I'll do is show some of the impacts that it has on work and then on us as educators. So at a macro level, what I'll do is hone in just on a couple of topics here. One big trend, extreme longevity. We're living longer. In fact, I'm doing a research study right now, and one of the questions that we ask people is really about today, it's projected you'll live to 100. What does that mean to you, and how does that change your perspective, if at all, on life? Think about it. Most people will say, oh, if I have to live to 100, I have to afford to live to 100. And to afford to live to 100, I actually going to have to work, maybe till I'm 70, maybe 80. And if I'm going to work till I'm 70 or 80, I'm going to have to stay healthy. So I better start thinking about preventative health today rather than tomorrow. And gee, if I want to stay employed for that long, I better continue my education. Because if you graduated in 1960, 1970, 1980, your degree is going to get dated pretty quickly. So extreme longevity, the new normal, living to 100. Another one, globally connected world. I think we think about the financial crisis, you think about Occupy Wall Street, Arab Spring, Russia. As one country sneezes now, everybody gets a cold. We're all globally connected, and this has an impact on work and education. Number 3, computational world. Everything big data, right? We've heard about big data. So what does that mean? Just look at healthcare. My parents were very dependent on their physicians for their health advice. Today, if you come to where I live in Silicon Valley, we're all self-diagnosing. Why? Because we use sensors to monitor all parts of our body and our body fluids. We also have mobility so that we can mobilize our medical care. And gee, you could spit in a cup and learn about your genetic background so you can actually avoid diseases. So we've become our personal cloud, so to speak, in health because of the computational world. The data is everywhere, and that impacts jobs and that impacts education. Now let's look at some of the technologies. I gave you a very short version because I know I'm keeping to the time restraints. Technology. I look at robotics, data, gaming, sensors, sensors technologies, multimedia. I look at it all, but I'll just highlight a couple today. Number 1, the growth of the internet keeps increasing. The utilization of the internet changes. So right now, if you look at the graph, the light blue and the dark blue is really today, it's all about multimedia and video and social technologies. And that shifted from previous years, and that will shift again. Number 2, the new media ecology. Perfect examples of what you just saw. People using multimedia today instead of text to express themselves, to use in work, to use in education. So this requires new kinds of skills that we have to think about for our students. Can you create things in multimedia? What are you going to do not only with social technologies, but what about virtual reality and augmented virtual reality? So I also create my own videos because I wanted to develop this skill, and also my students wanted me to develop this skill so that they didn't fall asleep in class anymore. So I will give you a quick video lecture on multimedia.
Hello, my name is Lady Gaga.
We have become a multidimensional society. Flat books have been replaced with engaging and immersive technologies. Virtual reality replaces the real world with a simulated one. Augmented virtual reality is virtual reality augmented with sound, video, graphics, or GPS data. This creates a new and engaging view of reality. 3D are objects that are created on 3 planes and provide more depth than a 2-dimensional experience. A current trend is a 3D projection mapping on buildings. Video artists are matching video to the building using 3D effects to make it look like the buildings are crumbling, changing structure, and even more. This engaging multimedia experience renews the way that advertisers communicate and reach broad audiences. Imagine a world where 3D billboards and TVs create a real-life presence and experience in your home or in your neighborhood. Today, billboards can watch you and you can interact with them. 4D, such as the Ralph Lauren fashion show, is 3D with enhanced simulations such as wind and water mist flowing over a live audience. Our research indicates that society needs new skills such as new media literacy. This is the ability to critically evaluate and apply new content such as multimedia in applications.
So new media literacy is one of the skills that we found in our studies on what are the future of work and what are the future skill requirements. I'm sure many of your students are looking, as mine are, to either participate in the future of the fashion industry, the advertising industry, the marketing industry, and the requirements have changed. In most cases, my students will say, I need to bring electronic portfolios. I need to show how I'm going to use multimedia to be able to participate in the workforce. The second area I look at is mobile devices, right? So there's estimated in about 5 years there'll be 1 mobile device per person equals 7 billion in the world. The iPhone, if you can think about it, is less than 4 years old. It's amazing how the mobile technology has seeped and integrated itself into all aspects of our lives. When you think when you went back to just the cell phone, that was hardly any in 1985, to today, the proliferation of tablets, smartphones, and multiple devices. And it's changing our lives, and it changes the way that we work. In the same way, social technologies, as we saw in the previous videos, Facebook has taken on the world by storm now with over 800 million subscribers today. Obviously, the way that we communicate has changed dramatically from the integration of social technologies. It would be, when you look at Arab Spring and how some of these social movements have been created or facilitated or gained momentum through the use of social technology, it's staggering. The other area I look at is gaming, where gaming is being used in some work and education, and a lot in K through 12. It's the next generation of technologies, which you know. I created another short video in case you're not familiar with some of the games on what are some of the more popular games and how are people using it.
Can you imagine that a game like The Sims has relevance at work? IBM and other firms are experimenting with ways that simulation games can improve the work environment and customer engagement. World of Warcraft is a massively multiplayer online role-playing game that requires highly sophisticated levels of collaboration among tens of thousands of players in a single environment. Complex games such as MMORPGs can enhance leadership and team skills in addition to increasing work productivity and reducing boredom. A new gaming trend is gesture gaming, or controlling the game with natural movements. The potential for gesture-based computing is perfect for simulation, training, or learning something new. Juniper Research predicts that mobile game revenue will reach $11 billion annually by 2015. There are over 400 million apps available today, and the majority of them are mobile games. Games such as Bejeweled, Mafia Wars, and Angry Birds are highly addicting. Experts suggest that there is an untapped potential for games in mobile learning in society, work, and education. Farmville is a real-time farm simulation game that's been widely successful in the social networking website called Facebook. Here you can live your dream of being a farmer, achieve ribbons, and unlock new crops while keeping up with the neighbors. Games create the potential for new forms of learning in work and education through the ability to help people to connect, collaborate, create, immerse, compete, and engage in new ways.
Little taste of gaming. So talking about Facebook, part of our think tanks that we organize, we include thought leaders from different companies. And Facebook joined us in one of our Future of Work. And I asked the head of the learning and development, how is work today for someone coming into a Facebook? And he said, you know, it's really different today. Number one, we don't subscribe to the hierarchy anymore. A lot like in gaming, everyone is an equal player. He said, number two, we aggressively screen people where the degree may not be the utmost choice. We do screen them for critical skills such as problem solving on the spot, and for what they can, through assessments, what they know and what they can do. We look for other skills such as team building, critical thinking, smart innovation. It's a very different way of working. So then I said, well, let's say I join Facebook, right? Then what happens? What kind of experience they have? And he said, well, we put you in a boot camp. We put you in a boot camp with all your other colleagues, and you have to take control. You are now an entrepreneur, and you have to think of the next generation opportunity for Facebook. And you have to find your next generation opportunity here at the firm. We're not going, we would prefer you to act more like an entrepreneur. So that's really changing. So then I said to him, well, how do you use social technologies at Facebook? And he said, we run our firm using social technologies. It's the most critical tool that we can use to get feedback from employees, to connect out to the community. So social technology is why it's here today. You can already see how gaming will be the next generation of implications on work and education. And then I sit there and say, how am I going to prepare my students for this new kind of work environment, this new kind of generation integration of modern technologies that are very different than before. So the rise of the smart machines. One of my colleagues at the Futures Institute does a lot of work, and at Stanford they do a lot of studying around smart machines. How do we stop competing with machines and robots and automation and start aligning with it, right? How do we come out and advance the uses of some of these technologies? The earlier video that my colleague played said that technology is doubling every 12 to 18 months, Moore's Law. So has technology and automation, is it ahead of us, right? And how, it's a question, how are we going to integrate and use it? So robots, which a lot of people kind of dismiss or look at as space age or, you know, next generation, is really here. I mean, of course, your Siri phone is a robot in a smart device. So here's a little snippet on robots and their uses today.
Will robots replace people? This is Donna, a fully functional robotic woman who can cook meals, grocery shop, do chores, give massages, dress, and recharge herself automatically. She has an IQ of 130 and converse about news, travel, culture, and music. She can recognize and respond to visuals, voice, and touch. While trendy, more importantly, robots have meaningful uses such as helping people walk and save lives.
Paralysed for the past 20 years, ex-paratrooper Radi Kayoff enjoys a new sensation: walking.
For me, standing up and walking, I never even dreamt about it. I've been wounded for 20 years and I never dreamed I'd be able to walk.
The AnyBot is a mobile robot with telepresence. It can bring you anywhere in the world from your computer. A robot is a mechanical intelligent agent that can perform tasks on its own.
We're now finding the U.S. military may have found the perfect way to test for chemical warfare. This is not a joke. Check it out. This is Pet Man. It's the first robot to move like a real person. It walks and crawls. It does calisthenics. It even sweats.
The Bear robot lifts and rescues people in harm's way. It can do what we can't do: lift heavy loads, carry them long distances on a battlefield, in a mine shaft, near a toxic chemical spill, or in a building after an earthquake. The Bear can rescue those in need without risking additional human life. Drones are autonomous robots that can perform tasks without continuous human guidance. They are often used in the military and in space exploration, as well as cleaning floors and mowing lawns. Robots have come a long way and have many uses in work, society, and education.
So robots, that's a quick smattering of the 5 technologies that I'm currently covering. The AnyBot is the most intriguing to me. I went to a meeting with an AnyBot. That's the one that moves around and you have telepresence. So I can remotely control the AnyBot from my laptop. I can be here in Valencia, but I could be meeting with someone in Japan. I could be a physician or a nurse in Moscow treating someone in the United States. I could be an engineer in Silicon Valley monitoring inventory and walking down the line in Japan or in Taiwan. So when you think about the integration or the convergence of technologies today, we are seeing it not only in the mobile devices, but the integration of things like the AnyBot, which is truly a joy, because when you think about it, you could be anywhere in the world almost physically and have presence. So now I'll get into how does this impact work? So and again, I look at a lot of areas of work, but I'll synthesize it down to just a couple. One is, if you remember, I said we'll be living to 100 and working to 100. So we'll be lifelong workers. And funny thing is we're working, but life and at work is also changing. Our environment has become much more distributed. The nature of work is changing. Staying in one company for 15 or 20 years is a thing of the past. Most people today would have probably 10 careers. There's a pervasiveness of something called micro work and freelancing. It started with the recession. Many people hung their shingle and went out and was able to make money off of it. But it took on, right? So I use micro workers to do things like analytics, to do some research, to help me with some of my videos, to do creative work. So I can source talent from anywhere in the world. So the second thing about organizations that I look at is a new concept called the superstructuring of organizations. I'm hosting actually a think tank panel in 30 days to talk about the different kinds of ways that companies are organized now. When you think about a consulting firm, everyone is distributed, mobile, and virtual. That's very different than a Facebook that has a very large campus and a culture and a boot camp. And this impacts how, if you think about, we want our students to be able to pipeline into work. Distributed organizations and connected organizations, the superstructuring of organizations. So, what we found is that new skills need to be developed, whether it's taught or how do people actually get some of these new skills. Now, this whole report is out on our site, and I won't bring you through all of these. But not only do you have the skills required for work today, you have to start thinking about the skills that you need tomorrow. So let me give you one. Sense making. We were just talking about robotics in manufacturing. Well, who is going to run those robotics, right? Who's going to make sense of how the robots will work? It's a higher level of thinking. So here's an example. You may have remembered the Challenger, right? The Challenger exploded, problems. They said on paper, everything, if you ran the data, everything was fine. It wasn't until they actually applied a human to oversee and dive deep into the problem to understand that there were organizational issues, there were cultural issues, there were differences of opinion, right? A higher level of thinking. Let me give you another example. Many of you probably travel, and you use your credit cards when you travel. And analytics are actually fed into the credit cards so that you know, right, they will know if the pattern is broken. The pattern is fed in, it analyzes, and it says, oh, someone stole the card. This actually happens to me quite a bit when I'm on the road, and my card will get stopped, and then I have to let them know it's me, it's not me on the run. So it's bothering people, right, to have your credit card shut down. So PayPal said we really need to develop a higher level of service, which is take the analytics, but overlay it with the humans who are bright, to be able to say, Tracey's on the road again, and her patterns repeat previous patterns, and even though the analytics are coming up saying somebody stole her card, we actually know. It's that extra layer of human thinking over. So let me show you two examples. The first one is a use in medical, the virtual autopsy. Right, so many of my students are very intrigued with CSI. So everybody wants to be a mortician now, or a spy mortician or something. But I show them that it's not going to be about digging around in a morgue anymore, right? It's really become a different layer of virtual reality, analytics,
in this installation,
and your job now is not only to be the subject matter expert who understands this, but you also have to be the technologist to understand how to use the technology and apply it. So you're requiring a broader set of skills. I won't go through the whole
user can remove certain
autopsy.
layers of the body.
The next
This makes
example
it
I'll
possible to
show
look
you
inside the volume
is,
and focus on specific details, such as
thank you, cars. I have a lot of students who'll say, if all else fails and I fail out of college, I'm going to become an auto mechanic because it's easy. And I say, no, it's not that easy anymore. Take a look at what BMW is doing. If you think about the cars out today, some of them are actually designed by aeronautic engineers. They're quite sophisticated, they're quite smart, and well, some of them don't even have drivers like the new Google car. So what kind of skills are required to repair cars? Some of these more sophisticated. Now this gentleman is wearing augmented virtual reality goggles. He's also wearing a headset. So as he sees what's wrong in the car, he's getting instructions, and then he's talking back.
Remove intake duct.
So I say to my students, you need to be the subject matter expert on the car, but you also have to understand how to integrate the technology, use the technology. And then, of course, if you want to participate, how do you invent the technology, which is all about STEM. It's quite fascinating. There really isn't a career anymore, when you think about it, that isn't touched by technology in some way. I'll move on from this one. Thank you. So what does that mean for us as educators, right? Well, if you look at this graph, this is actually by Georgetown. Back in the 70s, 40% of the jobs, a high school degree was okay, right? And that's shifted. Here we are, if you look out, increasingly it's the bachelor degree and the master's degree is more in demand. Second is, if you look at the larger, where people are hiring or projected hiring growth, healthcare, education, STEM, and the professional services, the green and the blue represent bachelor and master's degrees. So we'll be increasingly need not only more skilled people, more technical people, but also degreed people. Now, I won't go through all the numbers, but you know that you stated weekly we look at the unemployment and how it relates to degrees and how salary increases with degrees. My team actually did a skills gap assessment about last March. We actually went out to employers and employees to find out, is there communication actually going on between the two? Do employees actually know what employers want? And do employers effectively communicate back to the employee what they need? And we found gaps. We found that employees were not very aware of education requirements. Employers would say, I need bachelor degrees and master's degrees. Employees would say, no, they need PhDs or no degrees, right? Real disconnect there. And this is in the US. The second area we looked at was skills. Are employers and employees, are they in sync on what skills? Team building, independent thinkers, and we found huge gaps. So that led us on this journey to really look at what is the future of work? What are the future skills? How do we close the gaps? What is required to keep today's workforce employable tomorrow? So, students are shifting, right? So one of the things is that students are becoming lifelong learners, right? We see in many of the schools that I affiliate with, the student at night, the student on the weekend, the student going to school while at work. Work and education have converged for many people. If you think about you're living longer and you're going to be working longer, this is a reality. So the traditional student or the non-traditional student who used to work and go to school is now the traditional student, and we're seeing more of those kinds of students and less just going to the residential campus. What about their learning styles? So years ago, when I first joined Stanford, I actually mapped out student patterns. What are they doing? Where are they going to learn? And they vary quite a bit, just like you as adults. And you know what? It didn't matter if I was looking at a young student or someone my age. People have preferences on how they learn. So for example, this is Ashley. Ashley would say to me, I'll go to my classroom lecture, but sometimes I don't understand everything, and they have tutoring services and people to help me. So I'll meet with a tutor, but it doesn't have to be in person. I can text her, or I can use my mobile device and we can have a two-way video. But she said, I also use Facebook to find other students. I use it to network to find other people who maybe are in my class, who have taken the class, or can help me with more resources, because I learn very differently than some of those textbook people. And through Facebook, she said, actually, I was introduced to a chemistry club for a chemistry class. And I started a network with students in other schools who were smarter than I was in this particular class. And they opened up the door. They opened up the door for me to meet Nobel laureates, join other groups, and get resources. So the pattern, just think about your pattern. Your pattern might be a tablet PC. Your pattern might be a book. Your pattern might be pencil and paper, right? We all have different patterns in how we learn. And then look at the classroom, right? The classroom, as I say in the US, based on the factory system, ding, right? People move in, people move out. How can we bring resources to our students? And that's really what drove me to start creating videos and using multimedia, because I realized that so many of my students were using were learning differently. So the next video I'll show you was sent to me from an art history professor. She said, you know, Tracey, met you and I was talking to you and I thought about, what if I did something different for my students? So she brought in, found this on YouTube. It's called Women in Art. You may have already seen it. This author has done many of these. She said, I brought this into the class and the other videos into the class, and I looked at my students, and they were more engaged with this than they were with the textbook and the visit to the museum. And she said, I wouldn't have thought that, but I realized that students do respond to different types of multimedia or different techniques. And she said they actually ended up going to the library more than had we had gone to a museum or just looked at a textbook, because they were curious. They said they were so intrigued in who these faces were that they wanted to know more. Women in Art. Everything is on YouTube. Okay, I'm going to switch. Okay, so the last area I'll talk about, we're kind of zipping through this, is the future of you. Because to me, I want to make sure that my students are employable right away when they get out of school. So I talked to them about some realities. The realities is, number one, is personal foresight. Companies are not taking care of people anymore. That's over. You're on your own. You need to take responsibilities for your education. You need to take responsibility for your career. You need to take responsibility for your health, right? You need to get responsible, because it's just not there anymore. So if I look at where careers are, there's really three components. One is the lifelong education. So learn to learn and don't stop learning, right? It's not a stop anymore with high school or college. You just have to keep going. Whether it's informal learning or formal learning, you have to keep going. Number two is develop the work skills and get experience, because this will keep you working until you're 80 or 90, so that you're always employable. But number three is technical literacy. Go out and if your school isn't offering it, look for resources like the Apple stores, like the Microsoft stores, like YouTube, and get technology proficiency. This is called a T person, right? T person, really easy to remember. You need breadth and depth and technology, right? It's really what employers are looking for in the skills for their next generation. So I am actually at my 30 minutes, and I will like to end on a positive note, another video that I made, and I want to thank you very much for your time.
I'm out of time and all I got is 4 minutes. 4 minutes, hey. I'm out of time and all I got is 4 minutes. 4 minutes, hey. I'm out of time and all I got is 4 minutes. 4 minutes, hey. I'm out of time and all I got is 4 minutes. 4 minutes, hey. I'm out of time and all I got is 4 minutes. 4 minutes, hey. I'm out of time and all I got is 4 minutes. 4 minutes, hey. I'm out of time and all I got is 4 minutes. 4 minutes, hey. I'm out of time and all I got is 4 minutes. Come on. Breakdown, come on. Hey, come on. Got 4 minutes to say the word. No hesitating. Grab a boy. Grab a girl. Time is waiting. We only got 4 minutes to say the word. No hesitating. We only got 4 minutes. 4 minutes. Keep it up, don't be afraid. Hey, Madonna, you gotta get in my hop. That's right, keep it up, don't be afraid. Hey, Madonna, you gotta get in my hop.
tock, tick tock, tick tock.
Break down. Yeah.
Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock.
Yeah.
Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock.
I only got 4 minutes to save the world.
Thank you. If you don't, I didn't realize there were so many videos today. I would have cut back. All of our research is freely available. The skill studies, future work, all our webinars and panels, we open, we publish, and we equally share, and that we hope that we will hear from you or join our newsletter. We have ongoing studies all the time. Right now I have a women's leadership study going on, so we're out there, and we'd love to hear from you. So thank you.